Isaiah Thomas is a legitimate MVP candidate, along with James Harden and Russell Westbrook.
Baseline stagger and Wall got there late to the hoop. It's good and a foul.
Rozier with 5 fouls. He goes by a little crossover, step back, wide open, and it's good! And Boston has the lead!
6:45 remaining. Tatum drives down and throws it down. Wow!
What went through your mind when you just heard Kyrie?
That Kyrie's gone. That Kyrie Irving will not be in Boston next year. That's the first thing that jumped to my mind. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Tatum is 21 years old. My God, is he coming?
At the summer of 2017, we expected the Boston Celtics to make some splash out east, but they fell to the ground with a mess. At the summer of 2019, we considered the Boston Celtics as a mediocre playoff team, but they managed their way to the conference finals. As Malcolm Brogdon was traded to the Boston Celtics were seemed even better. There were ups and downs for this team in the past few years, but they always managed to climb up to the top of the world. This is the story of how the Boston Celtics climb all their way up. In the 2016 offseason, the Boston Celtics, a team was eliminated first round last year, drafted a promising young Jaylen Brown in the 3rd overall pick, which is one of the future cores of Celtics. Although we know that it's a good pick, but back in the year of 2016, most believe it was totally a bad pick. Besides, why a playoff team have such high 3rd overall pick? To find out the answer, it would bring us back to the year of 2012. The Boston Celtics traded their 2 superstars, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, to the Brooklyn Nets for a bunch of players and the 2 unprotected first-round picks in 2016-2018. They also have the rights to swap the 2017 first-round picks. That 2016 pick and the 2017 pick turned into Celtics Big 2, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. The 2016-2017 season for the Celtics swelled expectations. They had an all-star point guard Isaiah Thomas, multiple defensive stoppers like Marcus Smart. 22 years old, was selected by the Celtics in 2014. Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, and their free agent signing Al Horford, a former all-star that can provide great interior defense and outside shooting. Among their bench, guys like Terry Rozier, Gerald Green, Kelly Olynyk, and a promising young Jaylen Brown. Even though they started the season with a 10-8 record, they still found their rhythm to win the game, especially for their 5'9" starting point guard Isaiah Thomas, who named All-Star Reserve and averaged 32.9 points in January, marking the 3rd highest monthly average in team history. People swore this dude can speed fast, shot on everybody's head, and pass the ball well. At the season's end, the promising young Jaylen Brown, who coming off the bench, made All-NBA Rookie second team. Isaiah Thomas made All-NBA second team for his first time. The man who averaged 29 points, 6 assists, also finished 5th spot in the MVP voting. The Boston Celtics finished a 53-29 regular season record, ranking 1st in the Eastern Conference, meaning they will face Chicago Bulls in the first round. Unfortunately, Isaiah Thomas' sister China Thomas was died at a car accident right before Game 1. Everybody thought Celtics would easily take down Bulls, but they surprisingly lost 2 games in a row. But following Rajon Rondo's injury in Game 2, Celtics managed themselves to win the series in 6, sends Jimmy Butler and D-Wade to the home. Going to the next round, they were going to face the Washington Wizards, a team led by another brilliant point guard John Wall and a pure scorer Bradley Beal. In Game 2 of the semifinals, which is the birthday of Thomas' sister, Thomas scored 53 points, smashed the Wizards, brought Celtics an overtime win. But their 2-0 advantage would soon be smoothed out. Otto Porter Jr., Bradley Beal, John Wall stood out. helping Wizards won 2 games in a row. What's up next is the John Wall hits a clutch 3 that forces Game 7 and Isaiah Thomas dominated Game 7, pushing Celtics advanced to the conference finals facing Cavaliers. But the Cavaliers destroyed Celtics in 5 games. Their MVP candidate Isaiah Thomas played horrible, only averaged 9 points, shooting 28% from the field. What's worse, reports said that Isaiah Thomas was suffering from a hip injury in the midst of all that playoff run. The 2017 offseason for the Celtics was shocking. They not only swapped picks with the Nets, but also traded that first overall pick to the 76ers, swapped first overall pick to the third overall pick, then used that third overall pick to draft another promising young, the 6'8" small forward Jason Tatum. Tatum is a player that has great talent. His wingspan, length of legs, and ability to jump high, run fast, making him paid with high expectation. During the 2017 NBA Summer League event in Utah, people saw a future star rising. Tatum averaged 18.7 points, 9.7 rebounds, 2.3 steals in nearly 33 minutes of action. After the free agency market opens, Celtics traded their starting shooting guard Avery Bradley and a future second-round pick to the Pistons, acquired Marcus Morris, which opens up cap space for the Celtics. On July 14, Gordon Hayward, the man who just averaged 22 points in a regular season, signed a 4-year, $128 million contract with the Celtics. On the other hand, Isaiah Thomas, MVP candidate that year, said that Celtics need to bring a brink truck to resign him. But the Celtics front office was worrying about whether Isaiah Thomas can fully rehab from his injury. What's more, last year's conference finals convinced that his small size will be a problem in the defensive end. So instead of resigning him, the Celtics pulled the trigger, made a shocking trade with the Cavaliers, sending Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, and a first-round pick to acquire one-time champion Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, a fan favorite and a young star, replacing Isaiah Thomas is not a bad choice. He can score the basket, shot the ball well. Putting him alongside with Gordon Hayward and plenty of defensive stoppers will be decent. Quality bench player like Kelly Olynyk and starting power forward Amir Johnson signed with Miami Heat and the 76ers. The Celtics signed center Aaron Baines to replace their position. The 2017 offseason for the Celtics was a success, replaced the injured Isaiah Thomas with another star power, Kyrie Irving, draft a promising rookie, Jason Tatum, who will rapidly grow into Celtics' first option. Everybody was expecting Celtics being even better, including themselves. But what happened next is really a disaster. Only 5 minutes played into the tip-off game of the 2017-2018 season, Gordon Hayward suffered a fractured ankle injury which will sideline him for the rest of the season. Although these 2 young rookies are shining, Jaylen Brown efficiently scored a career-high 25 points. Jason Tatum puts up a 14 points, 10 rebound double-double in his career debut. But losing their secondary star Hayward was a huge blow. But the void left by Hayward was quickly filled by Boston's young players. Celtics lost their first 2 games in a row, then had an incredible 6-game winning streak. Kyrie Irving dazzled with his dynamic scoring ability and surpassed expectations as a facilitator, defender, and a leader. Jason Tatum, a rookie who's only 19, roared out of the gates, displaying a fluid scoring game well beyond his ages. The Celtics came all their way to a 40-19 record by the All-Star break. What surprised us is that their defense, despite dealing Avery Bradley in the offseason to open up space to sign Hayward, and losing Jay Crowder in the Irving trade, Boston's defense didn't slip but improved. Their defensive rating was ranking 12th last year, but leading the league this year. Maybe it's because the replacement of Isaiah Thomas and the development like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier. But a month later, Celtics officially claimed that Kyrie will be sidelined for the rest of the season due to the knee injury. Another huge blow for the Celtics. After Kyrie was out, Celtics went 9-6, finishing a second seed spot among the East with a 55-27 record. They will face Milwaukee Bucks in the first round, a young talented team led by the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo and a future All-Star Chris Middleton. Game 1 was a dogfight. 7 seconds before the regulation ending, Terry Rozier sinks a huge step-back 3 to give Celtics a 3-point lead. But what comes next is amazing. Chris Middleton shot a half-court bomb to push the game into the overtime within 0.5 seconds remaining. But anyway, Celtics won the overtime. Game 2 saw Giannis and Middleton shot the ball efficiently, but their 16-team total turnover buried their hope to win. Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier, Marcus Morris Sr. stood out, scored 30 points, 23 points, and 18 points to help Celtics overcome Milwaukee. Game 3 was an old-fashioned blowout game. Back in Milwaukee's home court, noisy crowd not only energized the Bucks player, but also frightened the Celtics' young star Brown and Tatum. Thon Maker and Giannis put up a blocking show. The rest is history. Bucks pulled the series to a Game 7, but the Celtics won the last. Terry Rozier, Al Horford, Jason Tatum all played solid in Game 7. Besides it, there is a bad news that Jaylen Brown hurt his hamstring during Game 7 and was unable to play Game 1 versus the 76ers, a team that was led by Joel Embiid, a superstar in the making, Ben Simmons, a good passer/great defender. Without two best players and a rising star, everybody thought the Celtics would lose Game 1, but Jason Tatum had something to say. Back in the 2017 draft, the 76ers had the first overall pick. They had the chance to select young, full of potential Jason Tatum. Instead of drafting him, they drafted Markelle Fultz, who was bothered by injury throughout his career. Then Tatum scored 28 points in Game 1. 21 points in Game 2, 24 points in Game 3, 25 points in Game 5, helping Celtics eliminate 76ers in 5 games. He averaged 23 points while shooting 52% from the field. Also, Terry Rozier, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, who came back in Game 2 starting off the bench, all played a great series. Moving to the next station, there was Cleveland Cavaliers waiting for them. The 2018 Cavaliers was not a good team. After Kyrie left Cleveland, their roster only remained Kevin Love, J.R. Smith, George Hill, Jeff Green. But they still have LeBron James, who's having one of the most incredible seasons in NBA history. Game 1 saw James shot the ball inefficiently. Brown, Morris, Horford all played outstanding as they took a blowout game. Game 2, James scored incredible 42 points with a high efficiency, but their 15-team total turnover buried their hope to win. Down 2-0, Cavs played old-fashioned basketball, blow out Celtics in Game 3. What happened in Game 4 is crazy. After LeBron puts up 40-point pieces in Game 2, he again scored 40-plus points in Game 4, took over in the fourth quarter, sent Celtics player back home. But Tatum's 24 points helped the Celtics win Game 5 anyway. Game 6, elimination game for the Cavs. Everything seems good for Celtics as Rozier and Brown scored 28 and 27 points, but LeBron James scored 46 points again to seal the deal, forces a Game 7 in the TD Garden. Game 7 was ridiculous. LeBron has to carry his team without Kevin Love, who was injured in Game 6. As the game started, Celtics player was energized by their crazy home crowd. They took an 8-point lead by the end of the first quarter. They ran fast, played hard, tried to make everything in the right way. But Cavs still ties the game at the third quarter under the great performance by LeBron James and Jeff Green. When it comes to most important, LeBron and Tatum stepped out. Tatum shot a step-back three and throws an insane dunk on LeBron James. But James again and again puts the ball in the basket, helped the Cavs won the Eastern Conference Finals in the end. Although Celtics lost their series in 7, fans and the media were all expected to their next round. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown convinced people that they can play while even the lights shine the most. People saw the potential of this young duo, believing that with Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, and their development, the Celtics will reach a better success in the near future. The 2018 offseason for the Celtics was remaining their roster and then chase for the champion next year. They first picked a young, future blocking machine, 6'9" power forward Robert Williams III with the 27th overall pick. What comes next is to resign with their starting center Aaron Baines and the developing defensive guard Marcus Smart. Up until this point, the Celtics was ready for the next season with the return of both Kyrie and Hayward. They resigned important pieces, successfully maintained their original roster construction. Fans and the media all believe the Boston Celtics will be a champion contender. The expectations were sky high. But as the 2018 and the 2019 tip-off starts, things has become a little different. At the tip-off game, Kyrie scored 7 points, shooting 14% from the field, while Gordon Hayward scored 10 points, shooting 30% from the field. A totally disaster. But people still believe they need time to know each other, and Hayward needs time to find himself after sidelined for a year. And they went 10-10. A team was said to be a champion contender went 10-10 record as season starts. Fans and the media was all wondering what happened to the Boston Celtics. They first criticized Jaylen Brown, who shot the ball inefficiently. Brown struggled to start the season, with the Boston Globe, a newspaper, criticizing him for taking too many two-point jump shots and an overall lack of focus and discipline. Brad Stevens even took Brown out of the starting lineup, put Marcus Smart instead. What's more, Gordon Hayward, the secondary star alongside Kyrie, was not and will never be he used to be. People all expected Hayward to be an offensive initiator, a spot-up shooter, or a bully to smaller player in the mid-post like he used to be. But that scary injury obviously took off his explosiveness, consistency, and versatility. On the other hand, Jason Tatum didn't take a leap as people expected. He has become inconsistent, which is a horrible thing for the champion contender. But the most important thing was their locker room issue. From every aspect, an organization, a basketball team, was constructed by many individuals. Every part of the team should trust, help, fight for each other. Only in that way can the team make a strong force. But according to Al Horford and Marcus Smart, they were not like a team but a bunch of individuals playing on the same court. They were lack of focus and discipline. The Boston Celtics defensive rating convinced that they were not as good as last year in the defensive end, and Kyrie Irving, who promised he will resign this summer, changed his word into "Ask me July 1st."
You guys will have me back. I plan on re-signing here next year.
Boston, like the announcement should be.
Ask me July 1st.
What's more, even Kyrie Irving himself convinced that he was failed to be a leader. When you have guys like Marcus Morris, Terry Rozier, and Jaylen Brown on the same team, but without a locker room leader, internal conflicts are easy to happen. Besides their game performance and the locker room issue, injuries played a big role too. Their starting center, former All-Star Al Horford, got injured a few times, which obviously impacted his body and performance. On April 11, 2019, Marcus Smart, one of the elite defenders among the league, has suffered a torn oblique, an injury that would sideline him for the rest of the season. A huge blow for the Celtics. Even though Irving made it All-NBA second team, Marcus Smart made it All-NBA defensive first team, But the future of the 49-33 record Boston Celtics was still questioned. Their first round was going to face Indiana Pacers, a team without their star player Victor Oladipo. Boston easily swept them. Going to the next round, they were going to face Milwaukee Bucks. A team was eliminated by them last year. Celtics took Game 1 as Kyrie dominated Bucks. He scored 26 points while getting 11 assists, but the rest of the series was totally a disaster for Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving averaged 20 points while shooting 35% from the field, helped Bucks eliminated Celtics. Also, the one who was paid much expectation, Jason Tatum, only averaged 12 points in the series while shooting 36% from the field. The champion contending season for the Boston Celtics was over. They blow out the expectation, only being a second-round exit team, but their offseason was even harder. Their first option, unrestricted free agent Kyrie Irving, went all the way to the Brooklyn Nets, teaming up with his friend Kevin Durant, who suffered torn Achilles in the NBA Finals, while their former All-Star center Al Horford surprisingly signed a max contract with the 76ers. Their bench firepower, Marcus Morris Sr., Terry Rozier, also signed a 1-year $15 million, 3-year $58 million contract with the New York Knicks and Hornets. To replace Kyrie, Boston signed an all-star point guard, Kemba Walker, who was known for his fast speed and a flashy ball style. Kemba also just had his best season, averaging 25 points per game. They also signed Enes Kanter with a 2-year $10 million contract, resigned Daniel Tice with a 2-year $10 million contract to replace Al Horford. But as for their draft picks, the Celtics made a mistake. They traded Matisse Thybulle, who turned into a great defender, to the 76ers for literally nothing. But the guy who named Grant Williams was drafted by Boston Celtics and had become an important piece of this organization. Among their free agent signing, they also extended the 23-year-old Jaylen Brown's contract by 4 years, $115 million. The Boston Celtics started the new season with a solid squad. They had Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Brad Wanamaker in guard position, Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward, rookie Grant Williams in forward position, Enes Kanter, Time Lord Robert Williams III in the center position. A team leading by a small guard Kemba Walker with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who haven't made a step further last year. Gordon Hayward, who seemed will never be an efficient player he used to be. Nobody was expecting them to make a deep playoff run. Their star power, depth of bench were all took a step back. But the Celtics starts the season with a 10-1 run, shocked the whole world as everybody was wondering whether they are champion contender. Especially for their third-year rising star Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who was entering his fourth NBA season. Tatum has made a leap offensively and defensively this season. Offensively, Tatum doesn't settle anymore. Unlike last year, he goes all the way to the basket instead of pulling up from mid-range. And he's extended his step-backs and side steps from deep mid-range to three-point land. The changes have made him one of the NBA's most efficient scorers, tallying an elite 1.1 points per possession in pick and roll and isolations. Defensively, with his 6'11" wingspan and a 210 pounds weight, made him tough enough and long enough to defend bigs like Davis. Although he's at his best against fellow wings and forwards, he's become a nuisance for opponents off the ball, averaging 2.8 deflections, 1.3 steals, and 0.9 blocks per game, making him one of 3 wings or forwards with those averages. On the other hand, Jaylen Brown, who turned into a per 20-plus points scorer, had improved his game as well. Brown enriched his offensive weapon, added some dribble combo into his game. His on-ball offense had been to another level, although there were still rooms for him to upgrade. Defensively, he had become a great on-ball defender. Remember, Jaylen Brown is a guy who had 220 pounds weight, making him tough enough to guard multiple positions. Kemba Walker, the replacement to Kyrie, has slid into the Irving role seamlessly, averaging a tidy 22.8 points per game while shooting better than 40% from 3 for the first time in his career. And while Irving struggled in a leadership role, Walker has embraced it. He leads vocally when he has to. He leads by example more. Due to their solid performance, Jason Tatum was named 2020 NBA All-Star Reserve for the first time in his career, and Kemba Walker was selected as an All-Star too. But right after the All-Star game, Kemba Walker was claimed that he suffered a sore knee injury, which will sideline him for a lot of time. At March 12, 2020, the NBA suspended the season due to the pandemic, then restarted the season at the bubble on August 1st, which was the seeding games. Celtics finished a 48-24 record, ranking 3rd in the Eastern Conference. They were going to face 76ers in the first round. 76ers, a team that was full of talent, but their secondary star Ben Simmons was ruled out due to a left knee injury. The possibility of Philly winning the series seemed very small. Game 1, Gordon Hayward surprisingly injured his ankle, which will sideline him for 4 weeks, but Tatum scored 32 points, which heavily helped Celtics take Game 1. After Celtics took a 2-0 lead, Game 3 for the 76ers was a do-or-die moment. If they lose, there was literally no way back. Game 3 swelled hope for the 76ers to take a win, but at 1 minute 14 seconds left, Smart made a huge steal to take the lead, and then Jason Tatum blocked Embiid to seal the deal. As for Game 4, they were toe-to-toe at first, but as Celtics took a lead at the 3rd quarter, the 76ers never made it back. The Boston Celtics swept the 76ers, advanced to the semifinals. Their next step was to eliminate the Raptors, a team led by Pascal Siakam, Lowry, and Fred VanVleet. Game 1 saw the Boston Celtics smash the Raptors. They held Raptors shooting 29% from the field and took a 17 points lead by the end of the second quarter as they easily took Game 1 and Game 2. Raptors were on the verge of fail. They were down 0-2. Game 3 saw two teams went toe-to-toe. They went all the way to a crunch time. Tatum sends a couple of good dimes. VanVleet makes a tough layup to tie the game, but will soon be mocked as Kemba Walker dimes to Daniel Tice, which brought them a lead. With 0.5 seconds remaining, the Raptors were on the line, but OG Anunoby surprisingly sinks the almost impossible game-winning shot, saved the Raptors with a much-needed W. Game 4 of the semifinals, Boston and Toronto went back and forth, but the Raptors took the lead by their consecutive 3-point shot. As Jaylen Brown went nuts in Game 5, the Raptors were one step away from elimination. Both teams played the best they could in Game 6. They went back and forth. What closed the door for the Celtics to win is Lowry hits an impossible shot in the second overtime. In the go big or go home Game 7, what Celtics player had done is crazy. Marcus Smart blocked Powell's tie-game shot, then turned into Grant Williams' 2 free throws. Although Williams surprisingly misses both of them, Tatum somehow draws the foul, pulled the dagger. With a missed shot of Fred VanVleet, the Boston Celtics again back to the stage of conference finals. At the conference finals, the Boston Celtics were going to against Miami Heat, a team known for their tough defense. Game 1 of conference finals saw Celtics holding a 5-point lead with 1 minute left, but their lead would soon be smoothed out by Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler. Boston and Miami went to an overtime battle. Butler's tough M1 play on Tatum and Adebayo's insane block sealed the deal. Game 2 was as tough as it can be. Butler's huge steal, Brown's 2 consecutive 3 to make it alive, and Dragic's insane play. but the hot-handed Jaylen Brown misses the tie game three-pointer, resulting Celtics lost 2 games in a row. Down 2-0, the Celtics were again in a dangerous position, but there were reports said that Gordon Hayward can return at Game 3, which was a good news for the Celtics. But Miami Heat was too good to beat. They finished the deal in 6 games. The Boston Celtics finished their season with a conference finals exit, which was far beyond most people's expectation. The 2019 and the 2020 season for the Celtics was wrapped up. Their goal was to play better basketball and always hunt for the ultimate champion. The 2020 offseason for the Boston Celtics saw failure. Their former second option Gordon Hayward was signed and traded to the Hornets. They also traded the draft rights to Desmond Bane, who will become a solid player, for only 2 future second-round picks. As for their addition, they only signed a former All-Star, Jeff Teague, who didn't provide remarkable help to Celtics offense, and a rebounding power forward, Tristan Thompson. The Celtics also drafted Pritchard, a reliable shooter that fits the system well. Fans and the media was excited about what Boston can do. They were hoping Tatum and Brown can make another huge leap. They were hoping the Celtics can advance to the NBA Finals. But as the new season starts, things all went crashed. They are not good, not even a mediocre playoff team. Although Tatum and Brown went nuts, the rest of the team was not good. Injury played an important role. Kemba Walker's knee had problems again. Jaylen Brown had a knee injury. Marcus Smart suffered a grade 1 calf strain. Jason Tatum was out for few games due to the safety protocol. These consecutive injuries made the rotation was not consistent. Until February 25, 2021, the 4 best players on the team, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker, and Marcus Smart, have only played a total of 28 minutes together all season. On the other side, their roster was just not good enough to win. The depth of the bench was horrible. Daniel Tice and Tristan Thompson, 2 centers that can only provide little help. Jeff Teague, a former All-Star but didn't play his role well this season, only averaged 7 points and 2 assists in 18 minutes of action. Robert Williams, Pritchard, Grant Williams, young players that needs time to grow. They were not only lacking in depth, but also the firepower to deal with the crunch time. Their bench scoring was ranking 26th in the whole league. To make things work, Celtics traded their former All-Star Jeff Teague and 2 picks for Evan Fournier, a solid shooter who can provide decent bench scoring. But overall, this trade didn't help that much. The 2020 and the 2021 season for the Celtics was upset. Although their 2 young stars was named All-Star Reserve, they only made a 36-36 record, ranking 7th in the Eastern Conference. The rest was history. Celtics faced the Brooklyn Nets with their Big 3. They only took 1 game, which Jason Tatum scored 50 points to bring it home. A first-round gentleman's sweep for the Boston Celtics. But there was something even worse. Longtime executive Danny Ainge announced retirement, and the Boston Celtics put Brad Stevens from the coaching spot to executive. Ime Udoka was the one who took Brad Stevens' position, a brand new rookie head coach. Many believed that the future of the Boston Celtics was marked. As Brad Stevens being the new president of basketball operation, he took a storm. On June 18, 2021, the Boston Celtics acquired their former starting center Al Horford and Moses Brown, who will be traded again soon, in exchange for Kemba Walker and some picks. On July 31st, they traded Moses Brown for Josh Richardson, a solid backup two-way wing. On August 7th, they traded their center Tristan Thompson for Chris Dunn, Fernando, and a second-round pick. On August 13th, they signed free agent Dennis Schroeder and Ennis Freedom. Their backup guard Evan Fournier was signed and traded to New York Knicks for Cassius. Up to now, the new roster for Boston Celtics was Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Robert Williams III, Al Horford on the starting lineup, while having Dennis Schroeder, Grant Williams, Daniel Tice, Josh Richardson, and Ennis Freedom on the bench. They have firepower like Brown and Tatum. They also have defensive stoppers like Smart and Robert Williams. With their new head coach Ime Udoka, who was known for his defensive reputation, many believe that the Celtics will be different next year, but they shockingly again made a 50 winning percentage team. What happened to this team that were paid so much expectation? First is their passing. Both of Brown and Tatum are elite scorers, but their play style and the way to score the basket were too similar. In other words, their functions are highly coincident. They are often lacking chemistry together and don't seem to be playing as a cohesive unit. Second, their defense was horrible. The team that had so many brilliant defensive stoppers were far behind the league average in defensive ratio. When the season started, the Celtics were mired in multiple overtimes, showing a lack of urgency when it comes to defense. Changes need to take. On February 10, 2022, the Boston Celtics traded Josh Richardson, Romeo Langford, and a future first-round pick for Derek White. They also traded Dennis Schroeder and a couple of players for Daniel Tice. Also, coach Ime Udoka commanded Jason Tatum pay more attention on playmaking rather than sticking to isolation. With these changes, the Boston Celtics had become way better than they were earlier this season. They finished the second spot on the East with a 51-31 record. Their defensive ratio came all the way from behind the league average to first in the league. Also, what surprises many is that Jason Tatum made All-NBA first team for the first time in his career. He was averaging 27 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and their starting point guard Marcus Smart was named DPOY, being the only guard after Michael Jordan and Gary Payton had ever won Defensive Player of the Year. Jaylen Brown also took a leap too. He was not only a 24 points per game elite scorer, but also a more experienced defensive wing. Robert Williams had become one of the most insane blocking machines that this sport had ever seen. Their tank was fueled, ready to chase their ultimate goal, a ring. At first round, they were going to face the champion contender Brooklyn Nets, a team that was leading by Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Game 1 was tough for Celtics. They battled for the whole game. With an unreal layup by Jason Tatum, Celtics took Game 1 away. Game 2 saw Brooklyn Nets found their rhythm, making shot after shot. They took their lead to all the way 17 points, but Celtics surprisingly made a 17 points comeback, smashed the Nets down with a 2-0 lead. Game 3 for the Brooklyn Nets was a do-or-die moment, but they failed to find their rhythm. The Celtics controls the Game 3 as they took a 3-0 lead. Up to this point for the Brooklyn Nets, they're hopeless. As everybody expected, the Boston Celtics swept the Brooklyn Nets, a team which eliminated them last year. Going into the second round, they were going to face Milwaukee Bucks, a team that eliminated them 3 years ago. Bucks now lack their secondary firepower Chris Middleton, which many believe that this series will be easier for the Celtics. But Celtics somehow lost Game 1 on their home court as Bucks took control at the second half. Game 2 saw Celtics played old-fashioned. They blew out the Bucks as Brown scored 30 points, Tatum scored 29 points, making a series tie. Although Jaylen Brown scored 27 points in Game 3, the Bucks still sealed the deal with Antetokounmpo scoring 42 points. At crunch time, Jrue Holiday sinks a clutch bucket to help Bucks took a 3-point lead. Smart makes first free throws. Now they were down 2 points. The Celtics still had a chance to bring it into overtime. But as Al Horford banks in an invalid tip shot, the Boston Celtics received their loss. Game 4. Do or die for the Celtics. Nobody wants to have a 1-3 disadvantage. So Jason Tatum and Al Horford stepped up as they both scored 30 points to bring them a dub. Al Horford and Tatum both shined in the fourth quarter, sinks shot after shot, brought their home court advantage back. Game 5 was the time sees blood. Celtics entered the fourth quarter with a 9-point lead, but the lead was soon being smoothed out. Giannis scored 40-point bomb alongside with Jrue Holiday's insane defensive play. Both of them stolen the hope for the Celtics to win, and what Smart had done was criticized by many. But in any aspect, the game was lost. The Celtics were down 2-3. If they want to make a step further, there will be a Game 7. So they did. Jason Tatum scored 46 points in Game 6, forces a Game 7. Game 7 saw Grant Williams going wild, shooting 7 of 18 from beyond the arc, which helped the Celtics send Milwaukee Bucks home. The Boston Celtics, now again, fight all their way back to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now they are one step away from the biggest stage, the NBA Finals. They were going to face the top seed in the Eastern Conference, Miami Heat, a team that loves to play physical. Among this series, both Celtics and Miami player injured a lot. They went toe-to-toe, body-to-body. Game 1 saw Jimmy Butler showing who he is. He scored 42 points, playing dominant on both ends. He led the Heat-controlled Celtics. Even Tatum scored 29 points, but their 16 total turnover was too much for them. But the young Celtics were tough too. They quickly found their problem, making a series tie in Game 2, smashed the Miami Heat with a blowout game. Back to Boston, the Celtics wants to take Game 3 on their home court, but both Tatum and Smart suffered injury, especially for Tatum, who suffered a shoulder injury, which will also impact his performance in the finals. Without their leader, the Celtics lost Game 3, down by 1. As Heat was also bothered by injury, the Celtics took Game 4 and Game 5, where Tatum and Brown all played outstanding. But Jimmy Butler pushes the series to a go big or go home Game 7 with his 47-point bump on Game 6. Celtics season were now decided by this 48 minutes of action. Year after year, the poise, the determination, the game experience has fueled Celtics players go all the way to the big stage again. They were not going to lose. Game 7 saw Celtics had their rhythm, entering the fourth quarter with a double-digit lead, as everybody was expecting the Celtics would take it home. Struz, Victor with insane play to push the game on the line, but that's not enough to beat the Celtics. With Jimmy Butler's missing three-pointer, the Boston Celtics are going to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2010. After Game 7 was over, Jason Tatum was named Larry Bird Eastern Conference Finals MVP. He wore a Kobe armband in Game 7 to honor Kobe. A touching story. Their revenge tour comes with a great ending. Eliminate teams that had eliminated them in the last 3 years. Now, they were going to face the Golden State Warriors, a team that was led by the greatest shooter of all time, Steph Curry. Before the finals started, many believed that the Celtics had a better chance to take a championship home. ESPN's BPI even predict that the Celtics has 87% chance to win the series. Fans and the media believe the Celtics are even better with the last 3 battles. They believe they're tougher, stronger. Even the Celtics made a 17 points comeback in Game 1. Even they had a 2-1 lead, they still lost to the Warriors in 6. In those 6 games, we saw Steph Curry played brilliant basketball. We saw Andrew Wiggins blow out the critics. We saw Jason Tatum played bad and was bothered by his shoulder injury. We saw Celtics were not good enough in the crunch time. We saw Jaylen Brown going for big bucket. On July 9, 2022, the Boston Celtics acquired Malcolm Brogdon, adding another piece to chase for the ring. Even now they are chasing Kevin Durant. I still believe they are truly a championship contending level team. They are determined, they are poised, they are brave. They don't scare when the big moment comes. They are still young, but now they have more experience. So, how the Boston Celtics built another championship level team? They make good use of their assets, trade for 2 huge first-round picks that turned into Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They also pick right players, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, and Pritchard. But the most important thing is that they are not afraid. They are hungry. They always get better.
Raindrop,
top, smoking no cook in the hot bar. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Cooking up.